Auburn family, what's up? We are back. The War Rapport. Happy to be back on a game day week. We are here, man. Make sure you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel as always. If you are already on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. I'm not going to get into my beef with YouTube, but we'll talk about that another time. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we're the War Report on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll be live tweeting during the game. Make sure you keep checking that out. Instagram, we will have our Player of the Week coming back next week. So Player of the Game stuff coming back soon. If you're on TikTok, TW Report is right there. We'll start getting back to you guys with our top 10 every week out there on the TikTok and some other content. But anyway, we're back, man. We got a game this week. It is Tennessee time. Time for the boys to get to work. How we feeling this week, fellas?
They've had some time to rest, right? Like so, I expect to see, if they manage this all time like a bye week essentially, like a double bye week almost.
Yeah.
I expect to see a fresh team out there. I hope we look healed and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely hoping that they took advantage of that time to get some people back ready, stronger. Shivers was coming off of an injury. He played well, but I think he got a little bit dinged up again in that game. So hopefully those 2 weeks of rest are going to be good for him. We should have some more guys on the outside. Jalen Simpson had been playing a little hurt. Marco Domia was getting his way back into playing shape, so maybe another 2 weeks of rest will do him some good. So, we'll see what happens out there. The big thing I'm concerned about, I guess, is the continuity on the offensive line, just because a lot of those guys had just really started to play well. Do we continue to be able to do that sort of stuff coming up this week? But we'll see.
Right.
Sherwood is supposed to be back also. Because he was kind of iffy for last week, but I think he is expected to be back. I don't know how much play he'll get, but he should be suited up this week. And I heard that we had a tight end, Frazier, who had been out. He returns, and apparently he provides that downfield passing attack that you want out of your tight end. Apparently, so I'd be curious to see if they work him in, how they work him into the game plan, if at all, this year. So.
Yeah, we'll hopefully, we saw Pegues get a little bit more in this last game that we did get an opportunity to play. So hopefully we'll have some more coming up this week with Frazier being an option, and then hopefully Pegues still getting worked into the offensive game plan as an actual threat to catch the ball.
Right.
We haven't seen any more of that Wildcat stuff with him. So I don't know if they're just I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't care to see much more of it.
Yeah, I mean, I
didn't like it when I saw it then.
Yardage, so like Pegues short yardage, I'd take that over design runs for Bo Nix and short yardage any day though. So, but we'll see. It's super predictable. That's the thing I hate about the Wild.
Well, also too, we've had a big revelation that is Tank. So
yeah,
that kind of did away with that type of play for short yardage. We can just line up with him and see what we can get. So
right.
Yep. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Before we get too deep into our game, because I know we're excited to kind of break down the matchup that we have against Tennessee, let's go ahead and start talking about some of these other games that we've got coming up. I got B Will coming in to join us real quick. B Will, what's up, man?
What up? What up?
All right. So let's talk about some of these other matchups that we've got coming up. Let's start with the most interesting matchup that is on the schedule. Of course, I'm talking about Missouri playing against South Carolina. What are we thinking about this one? I'm going to start with you, Mike, when we talk about this game. What do you
I like Missouri in this one, right? I mean, this is not an exciting one, but at the end of the day, Missouri. I mean, I think they've got enough offense to win this one. What is South Carolina? It's hard for me to pick a team who just fired their coach the week before.
Right.
I think it was a long time coming. We had talked a lot. I know Brian had specifically raised the issue of, is how hot is Will Muschamp's seat? I think we got the answer to that question. So he was really hot. So I'm picking Missouri in this one for sure.
All right, let's see what you got, Caesar.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to Missouri. Not only is their head coach gone, but some of their top players who had draft potential have opted out for the remainder of the year to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help your case either. it wouldn't surprise me to see South Carolina make this a game, but I think at the end, this is a South Carolina team that's been vulnerable against the pass. Missouri passes the ball well. And, I think Missouri pulls away.
All right. Who you got in this one, B. Will?
I mean, same as everybody else. I mean, I don't know how you expect South Carolina to compete because even though the boosters and a lot of the admin may have been saying that Muschamp was a stale coach, the players like Muschamp. Must players like Muschamp, and you don't get rid of the guy that they like and expect them to come out full force the next week. So I think South Carolina loses.
What do you think this means for our guy T-Rob in South Carolina?
Oh, he's been following Muschamp around his whole career.
Right.
Muschamp essentially gave him his shot, in Florida. He followed him. He's an Auburn guy. Like, he was in school when we were in school playing, one of the better safeties we've had at Auburn. But he's a good football mind, and I think he lands wherever Muschamp lands, honestly.
I'm actually hoping, not that I have a thing against Muschamp. I think wherever he goes, he needs to be a D coordinator there. So likely he'll end up at Alabama because that's just the way stuff like that works out.
Wait, let me ask y'all something. Do y'all think that Muschamp takes a smaller conference head coaching job first or a major conference?
I don't think he'll do that. He'll make buku bucks. He'll make a buku bucks being a coordinator somewhere else in the SEC. We know he can do that.
He make the same amount of money,
yeah,
if not more, being a coordinator in the SEC.
Yeah,
but sure. So who needs a coordinator in the SEC?
LSU. LSU is going to get rid of
That's guaranteed. You know what? Let's book. We need to open a line on that. What's the chances Muschamp goes to LSU as soon as the season is over?
Right.
I mean, and Bama would be attractive, but Charlie Strong is already there. Yeah. Talking to a few, Bama guys. The expectation is that once their defensive coordinator heads off, then it's Charlie Strong's job for the taking. So,
likely
Muschamp would have to get in line at Bama.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect to see him at LSU. But again, that means T-Rob is now no longer a D coordinator. He's going to be back to being a DB coach. Does he want to go somewhere and be a defensive coordinator because he can make equal to the amount of money that he would at LSU as a DB coach as he would as a defensive coordinator at a smaller program? He could probably make the same amount and have more control. So does he say, you know what, I want to continue being a D coordinator and go to a smaller program somewhere else?
I think it depends on where Muschamp goes. If he does go to LSU, it would behoove him to follow Muschamp to LSU.
Right.
Yeah, but if Muschamp goes to Bama, then I would take my chances being a defensive coordinator. It all depends on where Muschamp. He's the first domino that'll fall.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm with everybody else. I got Missouri beating South Carolina, so we'll see how that plays out. Speaking of the team that we were just talking about, and I'm going to start with you on this one, B. Will. What do you think about LSU and Arkansas?
You know who I'm picking against? LSU, because they trash and they got us talking about. Did you see that Gus Malzahn got added to Coach of the Year watch? LSU defense got by some committee. Tank got added to the running back of the year.
I need their name.
Watch. I don't know.
Well, I need their name so I can discredit them.
This proves we haven't proven anything until we get through our home stretch
of games. The team we are just talking about had a colossal collapse beat us this year, and Gus Malzahn is on the. All right, never mind. Whatever.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is LSU makes stars out of people. All right. So even though Arkansas, I think Florida might be kind of on the path that LSU was on last year. So when Florida beat down Arkansas, I was like, man, I thought Arkansas would hang because y'all know we've all grown in respect for Arkansas this season, but they still gonna be LSU. I don't know if Arkansas is actually good. Their coach wasn't there last week. I think he's back this week, and I think they beat LSU by at least 10 points.
All right. So let's see, Mike. I'm gonna go to you next. What are you feeling about?
I'm not as confident. Obviously, I'm on the opposite side of Brian on LSU. Developing storyline this week was about whether Miles Brennan was actually going to play. I know he attempted to practice this week. He's a real deal. I know he's not Joe Burrow, but nobody is until they are, right? Like, so I think even if he does somehow play in this game, which I'm not expecting it, he's coming in cold. But I like LSU in this one. I still think that team's got a lot of talent. Mississippi State, Arkansas has been a tough out for people this year so far. But I don't know that I've seen anything. I don't know if I'm 10 points confident like Brian is. I think it'll be a close game. Last one to have the ball wins this one.
Okay, Caesar, how you feeling about this one?
It's a pick'em game. LSU has the athletes to stay close, and I still respect this LSU team. It was a team that I thought would had the potential to beat us. They have the athletes.
What?
Huh?
Why do you respect them? What have they done to earn anybody's respect?
I don't know if you've been watching football like the past few years and their recruiting cycle.
Wait. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll let you finish.
Thank you. Your rudeness.
I know.
Anyway,
calm down, Mike Penn.
So no, like my thing is they have athletes to I think to make this a close game. I just don't think they're better than Arkansas. I think the team with the better quarterback is going to win this game, and that clearly is Arkansas. But I think it's going to be a close game because I do respect the athletes that LSU has on that side of the field, even though they've been a bit of a mess this year. Yeah. So I'm going with Arkansas.
Let's examine that statement. You said that Arkansas has the better quarterback in this game?
Yeah.
Yeah, versus LSU's backup. I wouldn't argue that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't care how decently he played against us.
I know you don't like Felipe Franks, but Felipe Franks has not done anything this year to make you throw shade at him the way you're trying to do right now.
Yeah, right. Listen, 16
does he still put on a jersey that says Franks on the back? Because that's enough
again, you're judging him
based on what he's done on the football field.
This year?
He shut me up this year.
Okay, you said when he put Franks on the back of a jersey, that's a Florida jersey. What has he done in an Arkansas jersey?
Nothing impressive.
16 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Not nearly as bad. He's been
a true freshman is better than Felipe Franks.
Yeah, statistically, he's better than our quarterback.
That's saying how much about Felipe Franks?
I'm just saying, like, listen,
I'm not comparing Felipe Franks to Bo Nix. I'm comparing Felipe Franks to every other quarterback that exists.
Well, right now we're comparing Felipe Franks to LSU's
a backup freshman who wasn't expecting to play.
Yeah,
I think it's a push, is what I'm saying.
No,
he's a better quarterback. He's a better quarterback.
Let's say this. Not against the respective defenses, and that let's take this out of the bubble. It's not quarterback versus quarterback. It's quarterback versus defense. So if I'm saying Felipe Franks against the LSU defense, all day, I take that. I take me against the LSU defense.
I'll agree with that. I will agree that Felipe Franks has the better opportunity against that defense, which is why even though I protest heavily that Felipe Franks is the better quarterback, I am taking LSU in this game. But it is what it is.
What's wrong with y'all?
I just don't. Listen, I think that it's going to be a high-scoring affair just because LSU's defense can't stop anybody. I just don't know that I feel as if LSU is just due one. So I'm gonna pick them.
I guess Vandy's due one too, but are they gonna get it?
Oh, wait a minute. This is a different. Oh, since you brought it up, let's go
ahead. Vandy.
Do one does not determine winning loss.
That was a bit of a reach.
That
was a bit of a reach, but go ahead.
Start here.
That's fine. I'll reach. I will reach.
You ain't reaching on this game.
Oh no, not at all. No, it's not reach. No, this ain't no reach.
Pull that hand back, man.
I mean, we got to be somewhat grounded in reality here.
I don't even know if there's a legitimate reason to talk about this game. Florida's going to win this game, dude. Is anybody in disagreement?
Can we move on? Can we move on?
I'm not in disagreement, but I did want to say this though. I know Florida beat Georgia, and then last week they beat Arkansas handily, and nobody had beat Arkansas that handily this year. I'm starting to see the same thing I saw out of LSU last year, which is not that they didn't look as good as LSU out of the gate, LSU's defense was a bit of a mess early too, because Florida, they went back and forth with Texas. LSU did last year, and then they slowly. It wasn't that they got dramatically better. It's just that I don't know, they seemed to just kind of coalesce. Like they just brought it together. The guys who were there played to their ability, and when the offense is doing what the offense is doing, you don't have to play lights out on defense.
Right.
And they didn't have to. They just made the plays that needed to be made to win games. And Florida, they were much maligned early. I mean, Texas A&M, they looked bad. The defense did, but now, last 2 games, man, they look like they're on the mission. Like they know they have a window, and if they play well enough on their side, on the defense, that is, that they can do it. And I'm starting to believe that Florida could beat Bama in the SEC ship and be in the playoff and make some noise.
I'm not ready to take that leap with you, but I do think that they win the SEC East handily. Is anybody, like I said, is anybody going to pick Vanderbilt in this game?
Oh man, Trask is on fire.
Let me ask you this: do you think? Well, it's Vandy. You think Derek Mason gets fired this year?
He's got to win one. He's got to win one.
Yeah, I think 0-10 might do it.
Yeah. That's really his only saving grace is probably going to be COVID this year, even if they go winless this season. But you have to still remember now. Speaking of possible head coaching opportunities, if Muschamp really wanted to be a head coach again, he could take the Vandy job once Derek Mason.
No, man, that'd be worse than South Carolina.
It would be worse than South Carolina, but does he want to be a head coach?
He seems to really want to be a head coach. Like
not at Vandy.
Yeah, I think he might be approaching a point in his career, kind of like Kevin Steele, where like head coach is not your thing, right? The coordinator is your thing. Like I think he might be there.
I mean,
he's been given his shot. Who's going to hire him at this point? Who's going to hire him at this point?
He's going to be okay. So here's the thing.
Would hire him at this point.
I don't know if Vandy would, because they usually go for guys that have an academic, a good academic showing, whether as an assistant coach or as a head coach. So they graduate their guys. That's why they went for James Franklin. That's why they went for Mason, because Mason came from an academic institution at Stanford. So that's kind of the pattern. I don't know who fits that pattern now that Vandy can go and get, but you can't keep Mason if he goes 0-10.
But they already know what Muschamp is doing in the same division against the same talent with better athletes. So why would you hire him?
What was it when the Jets went and got
again a coordinator from a smaller school that's lighting it up is much more appealing than Muschamp.
Right.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, like, can Vandy really argue with anybody and say that they can do better?
I mean, listen, better at this point is just one game. Yeah, like so.
I get your point, but I just don't think Muschamp would be at the top of their list.
No.
I mean, he's not at the top of anybody's list. That's a major program right now. Like, you just can't convince me that Muschamp is at the top. Like, he might get a job somewhere in the Big 12, right? Like a Big 12 school might bring him on.
Right. Yeah, like the Purdue's terrible. Illinois is terrible. Illinois. Muschamp to Illinois. Book it.
You might as well go to Vanderbilt.
Right.
No, you can still cheat good at Illinois. They don't have the same academic requirements to get in. That's the difference. See? That's what makes Vanderbilt extra hard to win at. You can't cheat properly.
Yeah. They've been cheating at Illinois?
They haven't been cheating.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Yikes, if they have. But go ahead.
We'll see where it goes. All right, let's move on to the next game because who cares about those schools? Well, Florida's still good, but Vandy, blah. All right, let's talk about this Mississippi State-Georgia matchup then. I am going to start it off with Caesar. My bad on that one. How you got this?
The Dogs are going to win, no hands down.
Yeah,
no questions about it.
I think that's a good pick.
Just the ones from the East Division. It'll be the ones from the East Division.
Agreed.
Is anybody debating that Mississippi State gonna pull?
No, yeah, I think Georgia will win this one. I mean, I don't think they're as good as we thought. I don't think they're as good as advertised.
And we made them look.
Yeah,
right.
Honestly, the reason why they got all the hype was the beatdown they put on us in week 2. Like, it seemed like they had turned this corner, and they had me believing because they made our offense look putrid. But yeah, I just haven't seen evidence of an intimidating defense from them since then. It's been okay. Like, it hasn't been a terrible defense, but it's been very spotty. Like, they've been out of position a lot.
Right.
I haven't really been keeping up with any injuries or anything like that on their defense, but they seem to still have all their guys. So I'm not really sure what's going on with Georgia. I just know that they looked, what's the word I want to use? They didn't look like a D1 top 10 defense against Florida at all.
Right.
But
So
again, Florida might just they might just be in the zone. They might be able to make anybody look like that.
yeah, I don't know, but like I still expect. I mean, they didn't look like that against Bama, which Bama has a juggernaut of an offense as well. But what my point is that if you've got a dominant defense, take us last year, right? A dominant defense should be able to make any offense look worse than what it's supposed to, right?
That's fair.
Georgia didn't do that against the two best teams that they've seen on their schedule offensively. They
Right.
were getting shredded.
Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's they can dominate teams that don't have it together, i.e., us week 2. They can dominate teams that are not as good as them, but can they go out there and compete with guys? Like it's the thing that you talk about all the time with Nick Saban. Like if the talent is equal, do you compete?
Right. Right.
Georgia, it seems like when the talent is equal, if it's like we just got to line up and beat these guys, we're not doing it this
Yeah,
year.
they're not doing it, and they got a long history of that too. So
Yeah. But
Wait.
anyway,
So what? Do you
what
wait?
does
Hold
look
on.
like this game?
Question about Kirby though. So if Kirby Smart with the track record of recruiting, because he's still killing it on the recruiting trail. I mean, we're getting like 2 or 3 guys snatched out of our hands every year.
Yeah.
So if he's getting the guys, especially the offensive line and the running back talent, he's getting the defensive talent. Even though he's not getting a great quarterback, he's had 3 very highly recruited guys. I mean, heck, if they had made the right decision at quarterback, Justin Fields will still be there slinging it right now. So
true.
do we think is Kirby's seat hot for kind of pulling the Mark Rick,
No,
getting close, somewhat there, and cooling off,
no, man.
or just plateauing?
Listen.
Is he going to get in trouble for plateauing?
Georgia, they stick with their coaches, right? Like, I mean, you don't see a whole lot of brash decisions being made in terms of coaching change. So, like, he's got a few more years before his seat starts to get hot. Just plain and simple, right? They're in the conversation, right? Like they're beating us at literally every year. I feel like they've made a whole career out of beating Auburn. At this point over the last 10 years, and I think that people at Georgia understand that there's this other school that's racking up SEC championships every year that's tough to beat. So but they're competing in those games against Bama though. I mean, those have been some of the best games. Remember he took them to a national title and lost it in epic fashion, right? Like, it's funny, like people forget that. Like Georgia gave us our first all SEC national championship game, right? So,
well, actually,
no.
We gave the world the first all SEC national championship game.
Yeah, actually,
we had to beat Bama
LSU.
for them to get the bye.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
Actually, Bama LSU was the first one, but you understand what I'm saying? Like in the playoff, right? It was the first one, and so like I don't know. Like I don't think you're looking at Georgia right now and then saying that Kirby's in any trouble, right? Like,
well, no, I say that because somebody always brings up every time Georgia loses a big game. Somebody on my timeline always brings up Mark Richt's record through the first 4 years, whatever it was, and then Kirby Smart's record through the first 4 years, and they keep updating it every year and every week, and I'm like, it's not too much difference there. I mean, they're gonna get to the precipice. They won the SEC championship game in a rematch game against us, and then they lost the national championship, and then the next year, I think they lose the SEC championship game to Bama, and then they lose a regular season game to Bama. So they're kind of now they might not even win the SEC East. So they're taking steps back. Right. So, I mean, they're taking steps back. So even though we can say, yeah, great recruiting, 11-win seasons, or in the case of this year, probably an 8-win season, which is still really good. I think we all agree 8 wins this season is really good. But is that what they're paying you for? They got rid of the last guy because he was just doing good. So why are you still there? And I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying, would they?
I just don't think that's. I hear you. I just don't think that's fair because Kirby got farther than Mark Richt ever did.
He got him to a national title game.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And really, what you're seeing this year is Georgia is suffering from Justin Fields' decision to leave after they went with another quarterback. That's really what you're seeing with Georgia this year.
Right.
Yeah. So this is where I will I'm not saying I agree with you, B. Will, but what I will say is that I think him getting to the national title game and the SEC championship a couple of times bought him a couple more years than Mark Richt would have had. But I don't think he's on a hot seat right now. But 3 years from now, if they're still just sitting on the doorstep and they haven't crossed over and done anything, if he doesn't get back to a national title or at least to a Final Four in 2 to 3 years, he could possibly be looking at the same situation. The difference, I think, the reason why it was so easy to let go of Mark Richt is because they knew they had Kirby in the back pocket, right? Like, who do you have in their back pocket right now?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And they gave
and
they gave him a decade, man. So let's not act like that was like some right.
I mean,
Like
they did.
And what to your point, Ike, in 2 or 3 years, what is Dan Mullen doing? If he's completely taken the East over, then yes, Kirby's seats gets hot for sure.
Well, okay, I ask you a better question. If Dan Mullen wins it this year, the SEC, I'm not even talking about the East. If Dan Mullen makes significant progress past just conference play, does that make Kirby's seat hot next year?
No,
not next year. I don't think next year.
No.
But I'll stand by like
Bama didn't win it every year.
What you mean?
I'll stand by 2 or 3.
Bama didn't win the conference every we won a championship over there. LSU's won a championship. Like I think it like if Kirby doesn't win it and a team from the East goes and gets into the playoff, does well, I don't think that's an indictment on the fact that Georgia's playing. It just happened to be a good year for Florida.
Right.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think Dan Mullen.
Now, if it continues, then you got something to judge Kirby on.
Right.
Yeah,
Bama was able to stop.
Here's what I would say is like I don't think his seat deserves to be any warmer than Gus Malzahn's seat is, right? Like,
oh, we're not talking deserve. If we're talking deserve, then I mean Gus Malzahn should be looking for a job, but
we'll see how it goes though. All right, let's get over into this next game. We got another stellar game in the conference that is going to be a big one. I'm actually going to start with Mike on this one. Mike, who you got in this one?
Nah, Bama big. Listen,
right,
Mac Jones is a Heisman
candidate. Let's move on to the next game because I just don't know if anybody is going to pick it. Is anybody going to shock us here and pick Kentucky in an upset?
Nah, man. Kentucky ain't got no offense, man.
I'm a Gatewood fan, and I just hope he doesn't show up. I hope he catches COVID this week.
Yep. No mild case.
Right.
But yeah. He's this is Bama big, this one. Yeah, right. Bama big.
Let's move on to the game that matters then, because I think we've talked about all the other trash games this week. Let's talk about our game. All right, we've got Tennessee coming. We are back in the top 25 after a couple of weeks off. Tennessee coming to town. Tennessee, who is on a 4-game losing streak right now. Tennessee, who has scored 21, is their high point mark in that 4-game losing streak thus far. What are we feeling about our boys going against Tennessee this week? Anybody who wants to volunteer to start on this one? Actually, Mike, I know you got to go. So
I got to hop off. So I'm going to give my full synopsis on this one here. Here's the bottom line. We have to win. The line is 10.5 on this game, right? We have to win this. We need to cover. We need to cover in this one. Their quarterback is not good. Right,
one of the few quarterbacks in the league whose stat line looks worse than our quarterbacks.
Right, yeah, they're not good. Our defense should be able to make him look that way, right? So defensively, I don't think we're going to have any problems. What I'll be watching for is to see if Bo Nix can build on the momentum that he has, started against some of the worst defenses in our league, right? So, I'm not sure how much tougher Tennessee's defense is going to be than what we played the last couple of weeks, but they should be rested. I expect a good game plan. This is a must-win game for Auburn, right? At this juncture in the season, you can't lose this game. It was kind of the same way we were looking at South Carolina earlier. We're like, man, if we can't beat this team, where do we go from here? And it just so turns out, Brian was right about LSU defense, and we picked up some wins that I wasn't so sure about earlier in the season. So, we had that 1 year where Tennessee was bad and we inexplicably lost to them. What year was that? You know what I'm talking about?
18.
Yeah,
18.
Inexplicably lost that game. So this is a must-win. This is what must-win for Gus Malzahn. I mean, Auburn is sitting at 4-2. They snuck back into the back half of the top 25. And this is a statement game in terms of, how this team is coming together going into a stretch that at Bama, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, right? And two of those three games we could realistically lose. I won't call it early, but I'm just gonna say I don't think anybody's checking Bama off as an automatic win, right? So he's got to win this one because you have two games that are gettable and you have another two that you can lose, and that puts us at 6-4 for the season. Now, in an all SEC schedule, I don't think that's terrible, right? I don't think that's a terrible finish. But, I would like to see, given how Georgia beat us down, I would like to see us beat Tennessee and obviously beat Mississippi State and then split Arkansas, Alabama, Texas A&M. But, if you lose this game, I think it's going to say a lot about coaching, right? How can you not have your team prepare for this game after 2 weeks, plenty of time to game plan, right? And as I said, they're on a 4-game losing streak coming into this. Now, is that break good for them to kind of get some things together before they face the next opponent, right? I just feel like you have to beat them, and you have to beat them convincingly. And all phases of the game, we need to look sharp at this point in the season. Offense needs to continue to do the sort of things they've been doing in our last 2 games. The defense needs to shut down one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, and we need no special teams blunders here, right? You got to win this game. You have to win this game, and you have to cover easily, right? If this game we win this in a squeaker, right, like at home, that's going to be really disappointing because just winning is not enough. How you win is going to matter when it's a team this bad, right? It'll tell us a lot whether we were actually taking steps forward or, if we somehow find a way to stay stagnant or take steps back.
Yeah, I got to agree with everything that you said right there. I'm going to kick it over here to Caesar, though. What you got for this game?
I got Auburn. I got Auburn in this game. I think at this point in the season, we look better than how we started. All right, my G.
See, man.
We look better than how we initially started the season, and Tennessee has gotten progressively worse, right?
So let's look at this. The only 2 games Tennessee has won this year was the first 2 games of the season, and that's against South Carolina and Missouri. They've lost every other game this season that they've played. So every team that they played that was decent, they got blasted by.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't even close. So let's look at Georgia 44-21, Kentucky 34-7, Alabama 48-17. They made it interesting, I guess, against Arkansas, which was 24-13. But they just haven't looked good, and their starting quarterback got benched. There's no I don't want to belabor the point too much. There's no reason we shouldn't win this game. I'll be highly disappointed if we lose this game. I'll be highly disappointed if this game is competitive.
Here's what I want to see. Here's what I want to see in this game. I want to see our defense stuff their run. Yeah. Stop the run and put their court. Basically, the blueprint of how we beat LSU. Yeah. They're putting if they're gonna run out a quarterback who hasn't had much experience. Then what we don't want to do is make him look like the right decision for Tennessee staff, right? So if we can stop that run game and stop their offense from going, I think we run away from this easily. If they're able to extend drives and get yardage on first and second down and set up the quarterback to make plays, I will be deeply concerned about this game.
Yeah.
So that's really the key for me. I think Tank is going to have a good game. I think our run game will do well, and I think it'll set Nix up to not be a liability like he's, like he hasn't been the past game or so. So you know what I mean. So I just feel like if we can do those things, I'm giving keys away. But that's what I see this team doing, and I see us being able to do that and beat Tennessee, take care of them in this game.
Yeah. All right, B. Will, what you got?
I see it pretty much like Caesar sees it. I mean, we have a defense that seemed to be rounding into shape right when we caught a little break, our bye week or whatever. But again, Kevin Steele, I think we all agree he is a very good defensive coordinator. We are rested, which is something that's kind of like a silver lining of this whole COVID thing is you get an extra week. That's 3 weeks. Might cost you some rhythm, but it also will very much limit the effect that injuries and fatigue is going to have on the players on all the teams. So it's going to be more of a fair game than it probably is in most seasons. But at the same time, we are still missing players that tested positive for COVID last week because of the amount of time they have to be out. I don't know exactly how many because they don't have to say which players.
Right.
We just have to wait for game
That's
day.
the only thing that I'm concerned about is who are
Right.
the players that tested positive
Hmm.
and who are we not going to have available to play.
Right.
It clearly,
yeah.
it was 9 players to begin with. I don't know how many tested positive the second time. I didn't catch the numbers on that.
Yeah.
But with that being the case, like who are the guys that we're going to be missing this week? That's what's
Right.
important to me.
And that's tough
You ain't
because
gonna know. You ain't gonna know until they announce it right before we kick off. You know, with Gus, it could be Tank, it could be Knicks, it could be
Right.
it could be
Yeah.
like with him. He just keeps it so close to the vest. We just won't know.
Okay. So
we'll definitely see, and I'm still going to pick us to win this game and still going to be disappointed if we don't win the game. It'll be a lot closer depending upon who the players are that may be missing.
Right. And that's why I'm picking us too. But I do want to add a caveat though. Unlike LSU, Jeremy Pruitt is he's a very good defensive coordinator, and he can motivate guys at least for one game. Like, can he get his defense prepared to play out of their minds for one game? Yes. And a quality defense against Bo Nix, that's always a scary proposition. So can he blow this game? Can Bo Nix blow this game by getting pressured and getting forced into some errors? He absolutely can, because I don't think he's a completely different guy. I think we've protected him from seeing the same circumstances that caused him to make so many mistakes early with the offensive game plan and finding the running game. But he's still Bo Nix, and that still scares me a little bit. But I think let's assume that we've got no incredibly important players missing due to COVID. Then yeah, I think Auburn wins this game. Could not guess the score because we don't know who all that is, but I think we win.
Yeah, I won't put a score on it either, but I'm going to assume if I'm assuming, we have all of our guns in this matchup. Even if we're a little thin in depth, there's no reason why this shouldn't be a 2-score win here. So I think we should cover. How many points it ends up being is really, again, going to be determined by who it is that's missing in this game. But there's no reason why Auburn should not win this game against a struggling Tennessee team who has not looked great, even in the couple of wins they had against South Carolina. Barely won that game. Missouri, they won that game pretty handily, but Missouri, right? So like they haven't beat anyone who's worth anything this year, and they've lost to everybody else, and in pretty convincing fashion. So I think we're equally as talented, even with guys missing, as some of the teams that they've lost to. So we should be able to win this game pretty handily. So
yeah,
that's what we got, man. We'll see what happens going forward after this. I think it's going to be super interesting also to kind of see who emerges after this week. We've got Bama coming up next, and then we've got Texas A&M. Like, those are we need to be able. I would love for us to get a game where fourth quarter we're resting starters. I'd love for this to be that game. The week before Bama, for us to have the fourth quarter resting some starters coming up, and so we can get a game plan together for that one, because they've already started putting in game plan stuff for Bama.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Hopefully we didn't look past Bama too much in that process. Look past Tennessee too much, looking forward to Bama because we had that extra time to prep. They didn't just say, all right, we're going to start installing some stuff specifically for this team. And look past them. But again, we'll see what happens this Saturday. Anybody got anything else they want to say about this game?
Man, does it feel like to anybody else, not even just this game, but all the cancellations that happened last week, does it feel like the season is kind of like teetering on the edge a little bit? Like I'm already thinking, man, when they're going to put these extra games? Because now you've got teams that have 2 postponed games. So they're playing into the SEC championship weekend, and I was very surprised it didn't get thrown off the rails sooner. But now, after last weekend, and I guess we'll see how many games will get canceled this weekend. But I'm like, man, we really might not finish this thing.
Yeah, it's looking very. The Big Ten is a mess right now. Like they can't seem to keep they late, and they can't seem to keep a full slate of games on the schedule for any weekend.
Yeah.
Pac-12 is in a similar situation where they're having a lot of games being canceled and they started late. So it's looking really interesting. It's amazing to kind of see what's happening in other conferences. With Trevor Lawrence going down in the ACC, making that a much more intriguing match. Not necessarily intriguing, but like it went from this is Clemson's conference to lose, so now they actually have to fight for it, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think we are teetering. I think we're nationally, just off of football for a second. I think nationally we are headed in a direction where they might start shutting things down just in general again to try to curb what's going on, just because people haven't been taking this super seriously. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do feel as if we are in an ominous place right now where football may be taken back off of and what the impact I think that is bigger on is whether or not the basketball season is going to be able to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, basketball is supposed to start happening, which somebody mentioned this in the comments, and I need to make sure that we acknowledge that. Shout out to our guy, Isaac Okoro, who got drafted by the Cavaliers number 5 overall after having that gruesome injury in the Sweet 16. Was that 2 years ago?
That was
Chuma.
That was
That's
Chuma.
my bad.
Chuma Okiki.
Chuma. I just saw a thing.
He just signed. He just signed his
Yeah,
contract.
he just signed his deal with the Magic.
Yeah, but no, I'm bad.
But Okoro's gonna be up north.
Number
And
5 overall.
Going to Cleveland is kind of like a gruesome injury, though. So I mean, to be fair,
for sure. Yeah,
Poor guy.
Okoro did a good job for us. I was sad to see him be a one and done player. I was hoping he would come back and be paired with Sharif Cooper for a big run this year. But listen, Bruce Pearl, like I know we're on football right now, but Bruce Pearl is doing his thing out there with the recruiting, and we've got some exciting ball players that are in the cupboard right now. I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to see them play this year because, like I said, COVID is not doing us any favors right now. COVID would want to affect the year where basketball looks like it might not happen, the year we look like we might have. Because we had a decent team this year that could have made some noise.
yeah, I don't think we would have won it this year, but we would. I think we was sweet. We was Sweet 16. I think Sweet 16 would have been the goal for us this year, and I do think we would have got there.
Yeah, but see, the thing about that, what I love to see is a team that looks like they're going to be in the tourney every year, because that looks good for potential recruits. Like someone else looking down the line and saying, where do I want to go play basketball? It's starting to, that Auburn is starting to be in that conversation more consistently. And you're seeing that by the recruits that we're getting in the program. But, if we're going to waste those years of having that with seasons getting shut down early and or seasons not being played or starting late, it starts to make more of those guys be like Jalen Green and say, hey, why do I even want to mess around with this college thing? Let me just go semi-pro and forego going to college and go straight to the league or go to a semi-pro team and then go to the league after that. Some of those recruits that would have come here might start thinking that way. So we'll see where it goes. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off of football because that's not what everybody came here to talk about. But yeah, no, to your point, B. Will, I do think we are in a place where football is getting to be more and more like, I don't know if we're going to make it. We might hobble into the end here. And what's that going to actually look like? Is that going to be one of those, you won the title, but there's an asterisk next to your name? Like, I don't know.
This season, this sport more than other sports, because basketball kind of went off without a hitch in the bubble. The NBA did. But this season, with you missing games and you're losing games because you're missing critical players, that definitely hit, because every game is so important. It just has a really big impact. So, I mean, if you're sitting at the end of the season and, I don't know, Clemson isn't in the playoff because they lost to Notre Dame. And I know how the way the ACC sets that up. I mean, they have a chance to get back in it, but still the fact that that's possible. I mean, hey, Mac Jones catching COVID and being out for 2 weeks down the stretch, and they lose games that they would have won otherwise. I don't know. I mean, what should there be in that? I mean, I think there should, but I mean, I don't know how you call it at all. It's crazy,
right?
Man.
I mean, a team that needs the resume can't get there because teams they needed to beat may have gotten postponed. You just
right.
Like that's the thing. You just never know who was truly good. Some teams who were good, but you just never know who was some of those surprise teams.
Yeah,
that could have snuck into the playoff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We got 4 weeks left in the regular season here, including this week for us. Then we get into conference title week. So we'll see where it goes, man. I am looking forward to this weekend. We will be back at you all on Saturday morning. Our game is at 6 Central this weekend.
Yeah.
Playing against Tennessee. So, hopefully we'll be ready to go on that one. If you haven't already, make sure you're clicking like and subscribe on the YouTube. And so you're up to date when we go live. Again, if you are uninitiated, game day is the day that we are here all day with you. We're going to be here pregame at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. We will have a halftime update for you, and then we'll be back at the post game to break down what we saw in the game. So make sure you are locked in on the YouTube. Otherwise, make sure that you all are following us on social media so you can get other updates. We've got the War Report on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to try to be live tweeting during the game. We are the TW Report on TikTok. We are also on Facebook as the War Report. So if you want to catch some of our commentary there, we do broadcast live to Facebook as well as we're on Periscope on Twitter. I don't say that often, but we do go live. This is broadcasting live to Periscope and Twitter right now. So hopefully we'll see you guys back this weekend coming up. As always, we appreciate everybody who's tuning in with us. And until Saturday,